Everything in nature moves in an arc, from the swinging of an arm to rolling of a cube. Everything in nature seems to move in one form of an arc or another. Things don't move in a straight line. But in CGI animation and of course in Blender, everything moves in a linear fashion. Everything moves in straight lines. The reason for this is computers are unable to make aesthetic decisions. What a computer does is it takes the most direct and efficient route between 2 points, and that is always a straight line. With that in mind, I've gone to trouble of creating an arc rig so that we can jump straight into experimenting with animating in arcs in Blender. Let's take a look at the blend file. Okay, so let's create some cool animation with this arc rig. What we're going to do, I'm not going to show you all the controls straight off the bat, we're just going to learn by doing. First things first, make sure in your user preferences you've got only insert needed and only insert available ticked. That is going to help us out and be conservative with our keyframes. We're going to then turn on our auto keying, and we're going to go to, on frame 0, we're going to drag our object all the way over here, insert a single keyframe on the X location, come to about frame 15, then drag our object to maybe, I don't know, about there. That seems pretty cool to me. And we're going to then move, it's auto keying for us now, because obviously we've inserted values into those channels. We're going to move the playhead to about frame 25, give it 10 keyframes to breathe, grab rotator 1 and insert a single keyframe on the Y rotation. Then we're going to move the playhead forward to about maybe frame 50, and we're going to rotate this around. And as you can see, as we rotate this object, what it's actually doing, I'm just going to numerically enter in 180 degrees into our rotation value. What it's actually doing as we rotate this object, it is moving the cube around it, which is super cool. Look at that. So a very simple way to start creating these cool arcs of motion. We're going to move to about frame 60. We're going to grab rotator 2 and we're going to insert a single keyframe on its Y rotation, and then we're going to move further forward. We're going to go to about frame 90, no, maybe frame 100. We're going to grab this little fella. We're going to just dial it all the way around to 0. Lovely jubbly, and it creates a keyframe for us. So what have we got? We've got this cool little animation where our cube runs along the ground, jumps in an arc, then jumps in an even bigger arc. And, you know, the size of the arc is basically decided by the distance between the cube and its pivot point. So the closer you are, the smaller the arc, the further you are, the larger the arc. So that's pretty cool. We're just going to select all. We're going to turn off our selection filter, perhaps. That's very peculiar. We've got some rogue keyframes coming in there. I'm just going to delete those. I'm not quite sure how I created them. And yeah, so we've got this animation, and I think it looks pretty cool. But what can we do to really make this animation pop? Well, first things first, we're going to have to pull up a little graph editor and take a look at what's shaking in Graphtown. So yeah, what we're going to do, we're just going to grab our first rotator, and we're going to take a look at its keyframes and the easing values within that. And I'm just going to turn off the normalize function because it's acting a little bit erratically in this version of Blender. Then hit A to select all full stop or period on the numpad, and that's going to fill our view with the selected and relevant curve. So just like in our timing example, all we're going to do, we want basically it's coming out slow, speeding up, and then going out slow, which is not how it would move in relation to gravity. We want it to be fast out as it throws itself into the air. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to pull that nearly vertical, and then it's going to plateau a little bit, and then it's going to go really fast out as gravity takes hold. So very cool. So that's exactly what we want. I'm just going to noodle a little more, and then we're going to do exactly the same for rotator 2. So there we go. We're just going to select the Y Euler value, Y Euler rotation value, hit full stop again, or A, sorry, and then full stop, and that's going to again fill our view. Exactly the same thing. Just going to drag these handles round to create a nice sort of reversed S curve. And as you can see, our preview range, or our end frame, is a little bit too short, so we're just going to drag this up so we've got a little bit more room to play with. Then we can preview our animation quite happily. I don't think it's coming out quite fast enough on that, so let's... And now it's plateauing a little bit too much, so So there we go. So that's quite pleasing to look at. That's a little bit more of a natural sort of action. And that's all there is to it, really. With this setup, it's pretty easy to animate beautiful arcs in no time at all in Blender. But if you want to take this a little bit further, in the next session we're going to take a look at combining squash and stretch and deformation along the arc to really turn this into something special.